And good
Morning.
morning to the listeners.
Yeah. So you do this once a month?
Once a month, we do the second Thursday of every month, and today is our 1 year anniversary. We started this last
Oh,
January, and hopefully
yeah.
getting some of this information out to the public so people know where to go and what to expect, at least from our organization, and talk about different things that occur as we age or
Sure.
acquire disabilities or maneuver through life with disabilities we already have.
Yeah. So tell me just for those who may not even first time listening, they're wondering what is Indigo?
Indigo. Well, we were previously North Country Independent Living, and we're an independent living center. We and using center makes it sound like we have beds and so forth for
Yeah, it's
people,
like you're a
and we're not.
mall shopping store or something.
Yeah, it's not like that. I guess the center part is part of the terminology that becomes confusing. But basically, what we are is we promote the ability of independence for people with disabilities.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the programs that you're familiar with is our assistive technology loan program. And it sounds like when you say assistive technology, it sounds like really, really high tech stuff. Well, sometimes it's basically a collection of devices used for people that have disabilities to make life a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Something as simple
Mm-hmm.
as a buttoner. There's a little device that costs, between $3 and $5. And if you have difficulty with mobility with one of your hands or arms, you could button your shirt with one hand with this little device, or a sock puller, something that, let's say you had knee replacements or broke a hip, and it's really difficult for you to reach down to your feet to put your socks on. And
Yeah.
this
Right.
little device for about $7 or $8 can help you to get your socks on and make it a task that was kind of grueling, something a little more simple.
Sure. Now it's not just about devices, but you're able to go out, meet with a client and assess what they're doing or trying to doing, and then you find the tools and the resources to that can help them.
Yeah, we do kind of like a informal assessment. A good example would be accessing the shower or bathtub.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a lot of advertising on these walk-in showers and bathtubs, and they are really nice.
Oh,
But
you provide free walk-in shower
no,
bathtubs?
we
No, no.
don't. We do not. Absolutely not. They're extremely
uh,
expensive.
yes, they are.
Extremely. And what we look at is possibly finding an alternative that is
Mm-hmm.
within the budget of the person that has these needs.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's where you place a grab bar. There's also a bathtub cutout kit. I don't know if you're
Oh,
familiar with that.
yeah. I think I've heard of it.
A
I'd
clean
be.
cut is one that I remember that I first saw, and these are things that can be purchased and installed by a family member or yourself if you're
Wow.
in that, if you have those abilities. But it's a big difference than ripping out a tub and the whole shower enclosure and
Mm-hmm.
thinking about what kind of cost you're talking about there. And then finding a contractor to maybe do these things is really difficult as well.
No. Wow. Well, I want to, we talked about telling my story because I've used your services most recently, and I found it very, very helpful because about 4 or 5 years ago, when I first moved up here, I worked at Old Southern Barbecue that was on 63 in Hayward. And then I worked well, one of the problems I had there and I had to leave is because my feet were hurting a lot, and especially my right foot. And I didn't know why. I kept getting, injections for the pain management and stuff. And then I had to leave that job and then I actually ended up at another restaurant as a manager, not so much in the kitchen, doing cooking and stuff and standing on those hard floors, but I ended up in another restaurant called Props Landing, where the old famous Dave's used to be, out on County Road B on Round Lake. And again, I tried to, not be on my feet all the time, and that was helpful, but I kept having this pain in my feet, and it was just terrible. And we finally realized, hey, you got arthritis. And well, okay, how do we deal with that? And the doctor says, well, we need to fuse, these two bones in the top of my foot. And I kind of put it off. I put it off for another 2 years because the injections were helping just fine. And I got around, I couldn't walk long distances. Like even when I walked into the local grocery store, I couldn't go from one end of the building to the other. So I'm using the stores have their little scooter carts that you use. And then I even had to buy an electric scooter chair to get me around when I was in locations. I'd travel down to Minneapolis and go to the state fair or other larger malls down there, and I just couldn't walk wherever I wanted to go. Um, so, anyways, I had the surgery and I needed a knee scooter. And I was talking to you off the cuff, and I thought, geez, these knee scooters are a lot to buy. And some insurance does cover those expenses, but really they don't. And you're going to end up paying for it anyways. And I'm going to use it once. Well, not once, but for a series of usage. And you showed me that I was looking for this knee scooter, and you said, oh, well, we got one of those. And I thought, wow, well, how much is that? Nothing. It's free for you to use. And I thought, wow, that was awesome. I used it for I think 3 months. No, 2 months.
Yeah,
Was
about
it
2
about that?
months, and
Yeah.
and it worked out kinda nice because, well, one of the things with our loan program is that we bring it to you.
Yeah.
It takes that, if you're already in a situation that isn't good, to have somebody to come to you, maybe you're having difficulty getting in and out of the car and so forth, well, we come to
Yeah.
your home.
Yeah.
And that makes it a lot easier, especially some people have, transportation issues.
Well, my issue was the surgery was on my right foot, so I couldn't drive anywhere. So it was nice that you were able to bring that out and show me. It's not that technically difficult, although I wish it had an electric motor on it so I could scooter faster. But
And a pair of crutches as well.
yeah,
And if
yeah,
you had to purchase these things for this short-term recovery time,
yeah,
that'd be a lot of money going out to something that's gonna lay in the corner, or you have to eBay
yeah,
it. It just causes more difficulties.
yeah,
And for this short-term relief, it worked out really well for you.
yeah.
The other
It did.
thing I was thinking about is that at one point you were considered disabled. You had a disability
Yeah,
determination.
yeah,
So this was a lot more serious than you're kind of leading on here, because I remember, being that I am a member of the station, I saw Mark quite often, and I I could understand a little bit of fear of, we
yeah.
get a little bit older and we got all these plans about, oh, when I retire, I
Right.
got this much
You
and I
want to
want
do
to do
this, you
this
want to
and I
do
want to
that.
do that.
Yeah.
And now I'm realigning my thoughts as to
Well,
what I'm going to do when I
I
retire.
was facing the real fear that, okay, well, I'm the kind of person that's going to, say, yes, there's a fearful thing that I could be disabled for the rest of my life. How do I deal with that? So I'm looking for options on how to still stay mobile, even though I'm disabled. And yeah, it's a hard thing. You got to think about, carrying around an electric scooter on the back of my van wasn't an easy task. I had to buy a carrier for this 1,000-pound thing or whatever it is. It's a pretty decent size electric scooter chair, and I learned how to get to be mobile, even though I was disabled. And that was a big fear for, I think, a lot of people, like you said, in our age group, as we're looking at retirement. Am I going to be ending up in a wheelchair for the rest of my life? Or am I not going to be able to do this with my grandchildren or, even my spouse? So I have ideas of buying an RV and traveling the states, but you can't do that if you're disabled and you're unable to be as mobile as you'd like to be. But thankfully, I've overcome that. Surgery helped with that, and now I'm more mobile. In fact, it's great to get out and walk without pain. So again, if your surgeon or your doctor is suggesting a surgery that would really help you, I just wish I would have did this sooner, really.
Right, right. And it's so that just extended your recovery time,
Yeah.
and plus it brought forth that disability
Yeah.
determination,
Hmm.
and
Which helps,
which
to have
helps.
that.
And but at the same time, you're looking at where, let's see, how do I put this? How do I navigate this? And what you ended up doing is probably a lot of rehab.
Hmm.
And
Yep.
and you probably realize, as I do with my own rehab, is it's for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
It's not you go through the 6 weeks, you rehab and everything's fine, and you go back to doing everything the way it was. I have to exercise every day and do certain stretches to make sure that I could get through the day. But it sure made a difference. And mine was similar to yours. It took about 5 years to get to where I am today. And there was
Wow.
a
Yeah.
point where I felt myself to be unemployable. Who
Yeah.
would who would want somebody that can't stand very long or can't sit very long? Where does that fit in? No
Right.
man, and all my experience previous to this was, and I was a cabinet maker. I did a lot of construction work, painting, things, and
Hmm.
then all of a sudden that was gone.
Yeah.
So where do you go?
Yeah, me too. I'm in the business of media production, and I would do a lot of video production shoots and live streaming events. And to think about not being able to carry all the equipment I carry and set it up and tear it down and do the productions. And now, thankfully, I have someone to help me with these things because there's just a lot of equipment involved. And just again, having the fear of losing your mobility, there's a lot of things to think about. I had to think about maybe doing a new career. Now, I ended up here at the radio station as an engineer, but that's a able-bodied type of position. You really can't do that from a wheelchair, but you can do the morning show here, and I sit down a lot here, which is, a nice advantage, and it's great. I appreciate the opportunity to do this. But yeah, it's just like I said, your organization and what you do in helping people assess how they can be more mobile, and then providing them the tools to do that at no cost. I mean, is there anything that has a cost to it for
Well,
clients?
basically, it's a loan program.
Yeah,
So we're loaning it for you to try to make sure it works. And then you decide if you're going to purchase it. So your situation being that it was a temporary recovery time,
sure.
that's a little bit different. Sometimes, well, I guess let me use an example of something that's coming up. There's a person that I have that they're having difficulty getting in and out of the tub and trying to determine what way they could modify their tub or put grab bars, and how are
Mhm.
we going to do this? And there is, and part of the reason of using a tub and not maybe a walk-in shower is the arthritis and fibromyalgia that this
Yeah.
person is feeling in the lower limbs. So
Mhm.
that soaking really helps to loosen up some of the tightness and relieve some of the pain. So the tub is a necessary part of
Right.
this person's ability to function because
Right.
it's really serious. So
Yeah.
how do you modify the tub so that it's easier to get in and get out?
Safely without
Well,
slipping or falling.
there's a
Yeah.
tub lift
Oh.
that has, it's battery operated. It will do, oh, maybe 30 baths before it needs recharging. It's
Hmm.
got a hand control that floats. So it's all completely sealed, and you charge it up and you slide over into this seat that's brought up to the height of the edge of the tub. So once you're on it, then you can lower yourself down, and it will not lower you down if the charge is not enough. So that way you don't get stuck at the bottom of the tub.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
that is
Yeah.
just one of those cool devices that people don't really know exist. And then when I meet with people, the knowledge of understanding how these things work
Mm-hmm.
and looking at and listening to the person is really important as to how you watch how they maneuver around their home, and you ask questions as to what do you feel is the most difficult for you, and they will take you to these places, and sometimes it's a chair that is not right for the person and they're having this difficulty getting out and getting up, or they plop down because it's too low.
Right.
And
Yeah.
sometimes adjustments to the chair or switching that chair for another chair in the house may be a better option.
Sure.
It doesn't always cost a lot of money to fix things. It
Yeah.
just matters. You need somebody there that has an understanding of a little bit of ergonomics and
Sure.
how people maneuver.
Well, I know for, a lot of people have recliner chairs and they love it. It's their favorite place to sit. It's comfortable watching TV or whatever they're doing, but a lot of them are built a little bit too low. And I know simply adding some wood to the legs or to the base of it to raise it up just a couple of inches is really all it takes for that chair to be something for you to easily get in and out of. But if you have to, there's electric chairs that lift the entire seat up so you can stand or sit down pretty easily.
But we
Now,
would look at the lesser expensive
yes, right.
option, and really, this is kinda cool you brought that up. Way, way before I started doing this, my mom had difficulty getting up out of just what you're saying, one of those recliner chairs.
Hmm.
And all I had to do is I just screwed in a couple of 2 by 4s into the bottom, and she
Yeah,
didn't plop anymore, and when
right.
somebody is plopping down and all that force is coming down that hard, that is so bad for the spine, the
Hmm.
neck, and, complaining, "Oh, my neck hurts." Well, the way you sat down with your body hitting that
Yeah.
hard is really a shock, and it's almost like a rear end collision practically.
Hmm.
So that solved the problem. If you pay attention to persons that are elderly that have that mobility problem, they do this rock, the 1, 2, 3, and they'll rock forward, get on the edge of the chair,
Yeah. Scoot
and
their butt up onto the ends.
yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the main things is to keep so the seat keeps your hips in line with your knees. Once your knees are over your hips,
Yeah.
then it's harder to stand up.
Yeah. Right.
And it's pretty some of it's pretty simple, but everybody has their lives and they do their things and don't pay attention to these things because it's not necessary until it becomes necessary.
Right. Wow. Well, very cool. What else did you have on your list of things to talk about?
Well, you had mentioned the other day you were in Wisconsin Dells for a conference.
Oh yeah, I was actually talking with Jan Snyder, who was at this conference for the Sawyer County Fair, and they have a tractor and a trailer that brings people down from the parking lot down to the main fair area to the main building and dropping people off, but it's not handicap accessible. In fact, some even able-bodied people, the steps are a little high, and we try to make those steps a little lower. But then they can climb up in this trailer and get a tractor ride down to the fairgrounds. Well, there's really nothing available because there's limited handicap accessible spots there at the Sawyer County Fair. We were talking about Jan remembers seeing some point a golf cart that had a ramp on it, and you were a great resource because you thought that intrigued you, and you went and found it on the internet.
And I sent that to you this morning right
Yeah.
before the interview. And it did intrigue me. I thought that was so cool. The golf cart is seats 4, and it has a side ramp to load on. And I think that would be, even if you're running a rolling walker to go from the parking lot on that rough terrain
Yeah.
all the way down to just to get registered or to pay to get into the fair, and then you got more walking.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought it was a really cool idea. And when I looked this up, it had accessories like backup cameras, and then the coolest accessory that I saw was a solar roof. So you're keeping the thing charged
Oh,
while it's just
yeah.
sitting out there. That was really neat. So thanks for bringing that to my attention. I'll have to mention that at our next staff meeting.
Right. Yeah. So
Yeah.
again, it's something that you may not be able to provide as a loaner because it is a very expensive cost, but at least you're a helpful resource to people in other organizations and how they can help people with disabilities to be more abilities.
Right, right. And the one thing that we do have that's on the same line as our track chair that we loan out. And a track
Oh
chair
yeah,
is you can imagine like the bulldozer tracks on a wheelchair so you could get out in the woods. And
yeah,
we've loaned this out for generally a week at a time. The only thing that the person needs is a 2-inch ball hitch and the ability to tow the trailer that
sure.
tows the chair, which is really
It's
cool.
not something you can load up in a minivan.
It has fit in a full-size van.
Oh,
It
okay,
has. I believe the width was 29 and 3/4
sure,
inches. So if
yeah.
you have an accessible van, you should be able to load this in.
Oh, okay,
And it was a side loading van that the
yeah.
one consumer used, and it worked just fine.
Wow, okay.
So
And this is a like you said, a track chair instead of it has wheels, but there is a conveyor track of sorts, kind of like a skidster would have,
yeah,
and that allows that person to get around out in our go out on the trail walk with some friends or family and not because a wheelchair can't do that. It's just too rough terrain for that type of a thing.
and even hunting, it's been used for ice fishing and
Oh,
hunting.
okay.
Well, I believe there's some accessories. I believe there's a gun mount so that you would be able
Yeah.
to shoot from there. So just think about somebody that maybe lost their mobility and they were an avid hunter,
Still love
went
to go hunting. Yeah.
still, and then thinking that that's all over. Maybe it's not all over.
Sure.
And if you could get this for free for a week
Yeah.
to try it out, that's a pretty cool deal because I believe they run probably about 12 to $15,000,
Hmm.
and that's our biggest piece of equipment.
Yeah. So Indigo isn't really all free. It's just kind of like you said, a loaner program that allows people to try out different equipment for their particular need. And if it's something that they need on a permanent basis, that's obviously they've tried it now and they can know where to buy it.
Right, right. And one of the other things that we do is called information and referral.
Mm-hmm.
Just if it's something that we don't do, it's being able to connect people with services.
Yeah.
The other thing that's free is that home visit.
Yeah.
You're not paying for that. You're not paying for that call for me to come out and see if I and do that assessment.
Sure.
So that is a real advantage to people, especially if you are on disability income. It's not generally uh, that generous.
Yeah.
So that just makes it that much easier. And then the person's in the comfort of their home. That you're
Mm-hmm.
not coming to this sterile office where there's that intimidated feeling like you're asking for something. I come over and meet you, and we just like we did with the exchange. I brought over the items that you requested. We
Yeah.
signed a little paper that said if they're destroyed, then that's your
Right.
responsibility.
Yeah.
But other than that, then when you were done, we made another arrangement to pick them up, and you didn't have to go anywhere.
Yeah. That was very, very helpful.
Yeah.
Well, we're speaking with Don Posh, who is an independent living specialist with Indigo, Wisconsin. It's INDIGO.WI.org. And that's the website for the organization. But Don, how can people get a hold of you to talk to you and maybe get an in-home consultation?
Well, I cover Burnett, Washburn, Sawyer, and Price County. And to get a hold of me, my number is 715-924. Whoa.
Wait, I show here. How about 715-919-4932 shows your direct number.
Yeah, that would be it. Why don't I
Okay.
know that?
Because you don't call yourself very
I guess
often.
I haven't called me for a long, long time. So
Again,
yeah,
that
I
number
forgot my own number. That's
to
pretty
get a hold
good.
of Don to get your in-home consultation is 715-919-4932, or you can email him at don@indigowi.org, INDIGOWI.org.
The other thing is that we cover the other counties to the north. It's just not me covering
Sure.
them.
No,
So we
Indigo
cover
covers, yeah.
Douglas, Bayfield, Ashland, and Iron as well. And we cover the four tribal nations in the area, which would be the St. Croix, Lecoutere, Bad River, and Red Cliff.
Okay. Very cool.
And how much time do we have? I can't see the clock.
We have about 5 minutes.
Oh, okay. Well, the last thing that I wanted to bring attention to is we're looking for board members,
Okay.
and the board members oversee the operations. One of the things that Indigo is driven by people with disabilities. So we're required by law to have 51% of our board of directors
Hmm.
and our staff to be persons with disabilities. That creates that lived experience
Right.
and a little bit more kind of the walk a mile in my shoes kind of
Right.
thing.
Yep.
But we're looking for board members specifically for Iron, Bayfield, or Sawyer County, and we've had a board member here from LCO. That would be great if we could get somebody from LCO. We like
Sure.
to have that representation from the different counties so that they bring the person that's a board member kind of bring a little bit of their county with them, like what's missing, what aren't, are we performing in your county properly?
Yeah.
And they oversee the management of our organization. It's an unpaid job. It's
Yeah.
one of those volunteers situations, and their mission is to empower people with disabilities. Vision is full access and inclusion in our communities for persons with disabilities. And basically, what you would be doing as a board member, like I said, is overseeing the operations, but the meetings, the terms are 3 years, which could
Mm-hmm.
be renewed up to a maximum of 2 consecutive terms. And the commitment, the board of directors meets 4 to 6 times a year, with locations varying within the service area.
Okay.
Sites, dates, and times are decided annually. Committees of the board meet depending on their respective work agenda, and board members work with staff on specific tasks and occasionally attend trainings, conferences, etc.
Yeah.
So, and there is no compensation, but expenses like travel related to board or agency work are reimbursed
Okay.
according to
Yeah.
policy.
Right.
So, and I know that person that I know a couple of people on our board personally, and if you can't attend in person, a lot of times you can do the Zoom
There's the Zoom
meetings.
option.
But
Yeah.
it's good to have that. Right, I'd be really happy if we could get another member from LCO. When I first started, we had from vocational rehabilitation, LCO Voc Rehab, and I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
I'm allowed to mention her name over the air, but she was on our board for for a couple of terms when I first started. So if you have some disability experience and understanding,
Right.
and you're in Iron, Bayfield, or Sawyer County, please look at
Yeah.
becoming a board member of Indigo. And you could get in touch with Indigo at Indigo. Let's see. This one is indigowi.org.
Yep.
And the number is 800-924-1220.
800-924-1220. Yeah, that would be great if we get someone, like you said, from LCO to participate that. And again, Sawyer County is open for a board position and help with the direction of the Indigo organization. Very cool. Thanks, Don.
And thank you, Mark. I'll
Yeah.
see you next month, second Thursday of the month.
Well, yeah, and if it's not before because you come in often, so
Oh, well, I mean, like for this
right.
specific
Yep, yep.
purpose.
Well, good. Thanks for joining me.
You're welcome, and you have a good one. I'll see you tonight at
Yep. Have a good night. That was Don Posh with Indigo Organization here at WOJB 88.9 FM. Mark Lundin here. If you missed that interview, you can actually go to our Facebook page or YouTube channel here for WOJB and see the entire interview and our discussion online.